Huh?
You got a daughter?
Yeah, this one we got it. Yeah.
Wait, who's the anchor on this? That's gotta be Jeff. I got you. Okay, yeah,
Curveball.
Good morning. Briefly address the Speaker's decision to remove Mr. Swalwell as well as his continuing threat to remove Ilhan Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee. I'm joined, of course, by my colleagues Eric Swalwell and Ilhan Omar. Let me just begin, if I can, to make a few observations about the off to my colleagues. To bow conference and kind of political strength of his speakership. Indeed, it shows the weakness of his speakership, that he is so beholden to the most, and it bodes, I think, the remainder of his speakership. But more arrogating to himself side of the aisle, should lead the Intelligence Committee. He will cause the intelligence agencies, I think, to distrust this combination with the formation of the federal government, which it will only be the intelligence community as to and feel confident that will impact policymakers in terms of the information that we have to make decisions about how to protect our national security. Unexpected, but nonetheless, that will bode well. That will bode ill in the future for the placate the Marjorie Taylor, his boss down in Mar. With that, let me turn over to my colleague Eric Swalwell, who I've had the pleasure of serving with on the Intelligence Committee members and one of our years, and indeed the innovation here is not appeasing the an effort to push back against abuses of the majority, and Eric Swalwell has been such an effective advocate on the committee. This is, I think, part and parcel of the motivation as well. Mr. Swalwell.
Thank you, Chairman Schiff. It looks a lot like the old use political power to his political opponents, and the new McCarthy in Washington. And throughout this journey of vengeance, because this isn't an amendment, this is about Speaker of the House is using his power to go after his political opponents and to pick them off the field. And that's why we've chosen every step of the way purely political vengeance. Speaker McCarthy is choosing to do something that Speaker Boehner, Speaker Ryan, and Speaker Pelosi did not have information about me. Speaker Pelosi kept me on the committee with access to the same information. Claims about me, never made a peep, allowed me to stay on the committee. The claims that Mr. McCarthy has made about me, that I could never get a security clearance, Mr. Schiff was also briefed on and supported me staying on the committee, because the FBI said 3 times, all I did was 2 things. I helped them over and over, and I was never suspected of wrongdoing. The Washington Post, in response to Mr. McCarthy's claims, gave him 4 Pinocchios, which is a whopper, the highest amount that they can give for one of the biggest lies that you could tell about somebody else. So this is purely about political vengeance. The cost is not only removing us from the committee. On the Intelligence Committee, the cost is not only breaking, shattering, it's always been bipartisan. The cost are the death threats that Ms. Omar, myself, continues to aim smears against us. Even though we have said publicly these smear threats, he continues to do it, which makes us believe that. But we will not be quiet. We're not going to, all 3 of us, more time on our day. Our mission now of this institution, of which so great, turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Omar, the first member of that committee to be born and lead a subcommittee on the Democratic side, and her bond to that committee.
Thank you, Chairman Schiff. Swalwell. Our governing bodies rest on a healthy and vibrant debate. Our strength lies not in our perfection, but in the diversity of our voices and our openness to civil discourse. That is might be as members of Congress have not and must someone from in modern American history, stripping a member of Congress of their committee assignments has been reserved for only the most egregious, convicted or indicted who have engaged in conduct, encouraged violence, or other grave charges. I have served on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the House Education and Labor Committee for the past 2 terms, committees that I have lived experience and expertise in. As a child who survived war, lived in a refugee camp, I would have never imagined that I would one day have the opportunity to serve on a subcommittee on Africa, global health, and global human rights. I would not have believed that I would one day not just serve as the first African-born member of Congress, but on a committee that oversees Kevin McCarthy's from our committee is also a blow to the integrity of our democratic institution and threat to our national
My question is for Congresswoman Omar specifically. You've had at least 2 Republicans have come out so far and said they won't support removing you from your committee. I wonder if you've had any other private conversations to that effect, and if you think the Speaker may have bitten off more than he can chew by trying to take this to the full House when there may not be the support there.
Yeah. So, if you remember in the last term when we removed 2 members of their committees, there was a precise reason for that. That was for inciting violence. You remember the speech Leader Hoyer made with an image of a rifle being held to my head and the head of other colleagues. We've all seen the video that Representative Paul Gosar made of killing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Speaker Pelosi, and President Biden. Many Republicans stood up and defended those members and their ability to continue to serve on committees even after they threatened the lives of their colleagues. Now, if those same members want the American people to believe that while they defended those acts, that they should not defend us to continue to serve, then it is going to show their hypocrisy. So I do believe that when and if this vote comes, it will be a moment of clarity. And I hope that many of these Republicans will have conscience and will not prove to their constituents and the American people just how much of partisan hacks they are, how much hypocrisy that they have, and show themselves to be a disgrace.
Do you believe a vote against you would succeed right now, or would it fail?
I don't know.
Yes, sir.
I'm curious to know what you all think about the fact that you all are being removed from committees or threatened, but George Santos has been sat on committees. What does it say about the politics of our country right now? What does it say about the institution? Just any thoughts that you have about Santos being sat on committees and you all going through what you're going through?
Well, I'll take a quick stab at it and defer to my colleagues, but the hypocrisy just grabs you by the throat. This is a Republican speaker who is seating a human fraud, George Santos, on committees, a serial fabricator about every part of his existence. He's perfectly comfortable with it. He needs George Santos' vote, if that's the name that he's going by these days. This is someone who, Kevin McCarthy, who owes his allegiance to a party leader in Mar-a-Lago who dines with white nationalists and anti-Semites. He's putting people on committees who speak at white nationalist rallies. The hypocrisy just grabs you by the throat. But hypocrisy is probably the least of Mr. McCarthy's sins. The most significant impact is that he is continuing this destructive trend set by his party leader of tearing down our institutions, of degrading the Congress. And, you know, this new select committee that he's establishing is going to simply just bring greater discredit on the Congress. And that's our paramount concern, is what he's doing to our institutions. In a bitter bargain to get the gavel, to get the speakership, he is slowly undermining each part of the work of this institution, and that's certainly not in the best interest of the country, which expect us to be working to make sure that we confront inflation, that we deal with the economic challenges that we have, that we create an economy that works for everyone. This is what our focus should be on, not on what the lowest common denominator in the Republican conference wants.
I would just add, you're seeing now the fulfillment of Kevin McCarthy's corrupt bargain, a corrupt bargain with Marjorie Taylor Greene, somebody who declared on January 5, the day before the attack on the Capitol, that this is 1776, someone who cheered on the insurrectionists, somebody who, as we honor the police officers who were injured that day. She goes to the D.C. jail to make sure that insurrectionists are taken care of. The first time this person's ever cared about the conditions of a jail is when insurrectionists are inside it. She's going on the Homeland Security Committee. It's too rich that the day that George Santos, yesterday, admits to the Federal Election Commission that he defrauded them in his statement that he put $500,000 of his own money into the campaign. It's too rich that the day that he admits that he lied to a federal agency, that the ranking member of the Intel Committee is pulled off the committee. It's just too rich that as the three of us are about to lose our committees, this corrupt bargain also enables Paul Gosar, who depicted himself killing a colleague, goes on to a committee. And it's too rich that this corrupt bargain also includes $75 billion to defund the troops, by $75 billion, a part of the promises that he made for this corrupt bargain. So we are caught up in this corrupt bargain. It doesn't feel good at all. It doesn't feel good personally, but that's not what's important. It doesn't feel good for the country and the Congress because they ran on inflation, crime, border, and they're not taking on any of that. This is the nonsense they're focused on.
Last question. Congressman Swalwell. Yeah, I have a question for Congressman Swalwell as well. I was wondering, so your defense to the Republicans' argument that you cannot get a security clearance in the private sector, you kind of defended that saying you cooperated with the FBI. Could you walk us through how you handled that situation after that that issue with the Chinese spy?
Sure.
How did you handle that?
Yeah, and again, I'm happy to heat up the leftovers on something that happened in Barack Obama's first term, but you don't have to take my word for it, because in my predominantly Asian district, 35%, larger than any other ethnicity in my district, we had a Chinese woman volunteer for the campaign starting in 2012. FBI came to me and told me this person is not who you and your team think they are. We worked with them. And the FBI, 3 different times when this investigation was leaked, the FBI 3 times said no wrongdoing. All he did was help us. Donald Trump at the time had access to more classified information than anyone who walked the earth. Just like he called out my colleagues here at rallies, called me out all the time. If he could have embarrassed me to weaponize classified information, you know he would have. John Boehner reappointed me to the committee. Speaker Ryan reappointed me to the committee. So again, I don't want to validate these smears, but Kevin McCarthy is making claims about something that 2 prior speakers had access to, and Speaker Boehner, I know for a fact, was briefed on, and didn't do anything, didn't say anything, kept me on the committee because it was nothing other than doing what every American, I hope, would do if they found out that somebody like this Chinese individual was trying to infiltrate the campaign. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You said twice already that he'll come to reject it. What does that mean?
We're going back into the door.
Yeah.
Oh, it just said nice to see you.
Oh, this is you.
Let's win in.
Never mind me, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. We were